Hey, everybody. Welcome. I'm Romy, and this is the first live for my first clue of my 2022 mystery shawl. And it's pretty exciting this year because it's the 10th annual mystery shawl. So, 10 years ago, a Verve for Keeping Warm and I started sharing a booth at Stitches West. And, and we were looking around for kit ideas. And I thought, hey, mystery shawl. I'd never done an actual mystery shawl before. I had knit one, but I had never actually put one on. But it was so much fun that we have kept doing it every year since. So, starting last year, I started doing YouTube lives for each clue, and that was because there was no Stitches West last year. And then I just decided, you know what? I think we're just going to keep doing this because everybody seemed to really love the YouTube live. YouTube live. Um, so I have a web captioner going here, and so sometimes some of the text is going to be a little bit weird, but hopefully most of it will be completely understandable. So I will also be watching the chat, and I'm a little bit delayed. So if you ask a question and I don't answer you immediately, it's just because it's a little bit delayed. So not quite like Zoom. And I'm kind of watching with one eye over there and one eye over here on my knitting. And so I am just excited to see you all over there in the chat. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. Okay, so let's get started. And I am going to kind of go over the pattern first, and then we can get to a few little things like how to start this. So here we go. Alrighty. So you have probably all downloaded your pattern. So just to show you up at the top here, obviously you have found this. Um, there is always going to be a link up here for each YouTube live, and every Friday when the clue is released at 10 a.m. Pacific, you will have a new link up here for the YouTube live, and they will always be in the afternoon at 4 p.m. Pacific time, and they will stay at this same exact URL forever. So if you didn't catch it or you want to go back later and take a look at it, it will still be there. And then a Verb for Keeping Warm, they are going to have some very cool little Zoom meetups, and it's going to be every Saturday after a clue is released, and they will all be at 2 o'clock Pacific. So this is the information on how to join. You don't have to register, so you can just show up and hang out with us. Okay, and then I started doing this just a little tiny bit of a verse um, 10 years ago. And so I've just kept doing it. So kind of, they're kind of dorky, but hey, what can I say? Okay, so let's get started here. So first I want to say for the people who got the partial clue, you will already have done this part of it. So all this on the first page, and then will have worked your chart A. So there's a little mark here that tells you where the end of the partial clue was, and that came with the Verb for Keeping Warm kits. And then chart B, nobody has done that yet, except for test knitters. Okay, so I'm just going to check over here. I just want to make sure that I am seeing all of the chat and everything so I can answer your questions and make sure that nobody is, let me see. Okay, yeah, I saw the talk to text always makes me chuckle. Yeah, there have been some interesting ones. And I also wanted to say I had to move this so that you can only comment if you subscribe. And apologies for that, but there were some weird comments on there. So if you're not able to chat, just subscribe to my channel and then you'll be able to chat right away. Okay, so I'm just going to run a little bit through this first, and then we'll go like bit by bit and kind of examine everything. So here is the Mystery Shawl clue schedule. They are all going to come out at 10 a.m. Pacific time. They're a week apart. And in my Ravelry group, if you are a member, if you're able to access Ravelry, we have a great little knit along, and there are prizes for people. People are put into the little prize drawing if you have finished your mystery 2 weeks past the last clue. So the last part, you get a little bit of extra time to finish up. Okay, so this starts out with a garter tab, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Mine is just a tiny, tiny bit different. It's a very small garter tab, and I use a coilless safety pin or other type of stitch marker to kind of help to pick up the stitches. And we're just going to go through that. Let's take a little bit of a look over in this area. So even though about 20 bazillion people looked this over before it went live today, I managed to leave out the SK2P in the abbreviations. So you are going to slip one stitch knitwise, then knit two together, and then pass the slipped stitch over. And I will show you how to do that. So don't worry. Okay, so all the abbreviations are here. Don't miss this little part up at the top there. And we have the key to all the chart symbols. These charts do not have the wrong side. They only have the right side listed. And you can see over here on the right side of the chart, all the odd numbers are over here on the right side. And this is where you're going to start from. So you're always going to start the right side rows from the right on the chart and work towards the left. So these dark areas here are basically placeholders. So it's a no stitch. So if you look up here at the key to the chart symbols, you'll see that it says no stitch. And it's just a place marker. So there's literally nothing there. There will be absolutely nothing there to slip or do anything at all. There's just 0 stitches in this area here. And those are just added in as placeholders so you can see how the chart lines up and see how the pattern is growing as it goes. So you can see how this lines up right on top here. Okay. And as I was saying, this is the right side only, and down in this little box here, this is the wrong side chart. So you're going to read this exactly as it is written. So that means that you're going to knit 3 stitches through the back loop on either side. And then in the middle, everything will be purled. And then there's a little note down here. There is one row in chart B that has a double yarn over. So when we get to a double yarn over, you can't knit 2 stitches into it or purl 2 stitches into it. You have to do a knit and then a purl, or a purl and then a knit. In this case, it really doesn't matter which is first, but I just wrote it purl one and then knit one into the double yarn over. So, and we'll talk about that a little bit later when we get to chart B. So over here, I also have all of the written instructions for chart A. And if you're wondering about any of the chart markings or anything like that, you can come over here and take a look and make sure that you're interpreting it correctly. So it makes it a little bit easier, I think, to be able to check one against the other. And if you like to follow written instructions, of course, you can just come over here and kind of look at the chart and see how everything is progressing as well. Okay, then we are going to move on over here to chart B. So chart B, remember I was talking about that double yarn over. Because this little area here is repeated 7 times, and there's a yarn over at the beginning and a yarn over at the end, that makes a double yarn over in the middle. So on the side, it's just going to be a single yarn over, but once you start repeating, so once you get to the end of this, repeat the first time and go back, you're going to have another yarn over there. So all that really means is that you're going to wrap your yarn around your needle 2 times instead of 1 time. And that is not, it's not a mistake. It is meant to be there. So again, we have the written instructions, and again, chart B shows only the right side rows. And these are all the odd numbered rows here. And each of these rows starts on the right. So we are getting some voice to text fails, and I am actually trying to speak really clearly, but there's some funny things there sometimes. Okay, let's take just a quick look up here. I did want to talk a little bit about this because every year people get a bit nervous about possibly running out of yarn. So I usually use floating every year, and floating does have more yardage than the Annapurna. And I do want to tell you that I only give myself as much yardage as the Annapurna has, and I also leave 10%. So in other words, there's a 10% kind of wiggle room, and I'm working off the Annapurna yardage, not the full floating yardage. So if you have the gauge that I have, you should not have any problems at all having enough yarn. Sometimes people don't swatch, which is, I mean, totally up to you, but you may end up playing yarn chicken if you are a loose knitter. So in order to swatch, what you would want to do is I generally do double the number of stitches and rows to swatch. And I'm a person who swatches and then I take my swatch out. So what I would do is cast on 44 stitches, knit 60 rows, and generally I just leave it on the needle and dunk it in water. Um, I like to use circular needles. I get most of the water out of it as much as I possibly can, and then stretch it out to block. So this is a shawl and not like a sweater. So you want to swatch so that it's exactly how your finished object is going to be treated. And I like to really stretch my shawls when I block things. So this gauge reflects that. It reflects being stretched thuggishly. So that's all about thuggish blocking of shawls. So I pin it out. I often weave my blocking wires in and out of the sides and pull it as much as I possibly can. And then I pin it out and let it dry completely and unpin it to measure. And that is how I have gotten um, this gauge here. So I think it's easier for designers because we just have to knit what we like the look of and then we can measure it. But The only thing that's important about the gauge is that it helps you not to use too much yarn, and so that you'll know you'll have enough yarn to be able to knit the whole shawl. Okay, so let's just do this little setup for garter tab. And so I had a couple of questions. There was a question, will this be available as a recording? Yes, this will stay up. So if you didn't catch the whole thing, if you need to go back and look at everything, you can come back to the exact same URL and it will be here. And then there's a comment that my first year I used Annapurna and I had no problem. Yay. Excellent. That's what we strive for every year. I don't want anybody to run out of yarn. Okay, so I'm just going to work this garter tab set up here. And it's a garter tab is just a little area to start. It's kind of a hidden area if you've never seen that term before, or if you've never done a garter tab. Basically, what it does is allow you to start and completely hide your start so that you don't have to, like, no one will know where you started, basically. It's just a little hidden start. So I'm going to show you my favorite way to do it. And I like to use what I call a sacrificial slip knot because it's not going to stay in my shawl. I don't like to have knots in my lace. So I'm going to do that first little slip knot, and then I'm going to cast on 3 stitches, and these 3 stitches are actually going to stay. The slip knot is going to go, but the 3 stitches here will stay. And these are just backwards loop. It's called an E cast on. If you are a machine knitter, you probably heard it referred to as an E cast on. And you can see up close here, the right leg needs to be in front and the left leg is in back. So the pattern will always assume that the right leg of the stitch is in front and the left leg is in back. Usually that's not very important, but in this case it is because we're going to be doing directional stitches in lace. So here are the first 3 stitches, and this one I'm not counting as a stitch. Okay, so now that I have that done, and I had a question, do you block it to 8 inches or as far as you can stretch it for the swatch? As far as I can stretch it. I'm going to block my finished item as far as I can possibly stretch it. So that's exactly what I'm going to do to the swatch. I don't ever block to measurements on a shawl. I always stretch it as far as I can go. Okay, so what I've just done is I have put my little pin into these first 3 stitches here, and I'm just going to leave that hanging, and I'm going to work 3 stitches through the back loop. I like to do the edgings through the back loop because I think it's really creates a really nice edge. And without slipping this first stitch, you can have a nice edge that looks neat. Please don't slip the first stitch on this shawl because you're going to have problems blocking it out. So this is in lieu of slipping that first stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to start my first row. The first one is just a little bit fiddly because that pin is there, and stitches kind of tend to slip off the needles a little bit. So I'm going to be pretty careful here and work each of these through the back loop. And now that I've gotten to the end here, I have my little sacrificial slip knot there, and I'm just going to pop that off the needle and let it hang. That's just going to hang there. This first stitch is going to be a little bit loose, but it's very easy to straighten it out. Okay, so I'm going to work 4 more rows. And my aim is to have 3 garter ridges. So this is my second row here. And my third, and I'm knitting all of these stitches through the back loop. And that's just to make it nice and neat and tidy. And hopefully I won't lose count because I'm just talking and talking here. But no problem if I do. I can always count back again. Okay. So here I am. If you lose count, you can just take a look here. So what I want to have, I want 3 garter ridges and I only have 2. So I know I need to do another row here and turn it over. So if you do lose count, never fear. You can tell by looking at it just about where you are. Okay, so I have my 5 rows and I can see my 3 garter ridges. So here's the top one and then the middle one and this last one down here. So that brings us to row 1. So on row 1, I am going to knit 3 stitches through the back loop. So 1, 2, and 3. And now I'm going to turn it around. So the idea here is that the shawl is going to be knit down from this side right here. So I'm going to turn it around and pick up stitches along this top side here to continue with the shawl. And to keep this from kind of lumping up and getting all pointy and kind of weird looking, I am going to use yarn overs. So there's 1 yarn over. Now I'm going to go into this first little loop on the side of my garter ridge. And I like to knit these through the back loop because it twists that little ridge and it makes it tidier. So you can see that little twist there. That's going to blend in better with the rest of the shawl. Now I'm going to do another yarn over. And down here on my next garter ridge, I'm going to pick up that little loop on the edge here. And I'm going to knit that one through the back loop as well. So this is going to be that's kind of the complete center right there. Okay, and now I'm going to do another yarn over. And I am going to come down here and pick up the loop right here. That's my last garter ridge. And there is my stitch in there. So let's see, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I'm going to take out that little slip knot now. And now I'm just going to kind of pull on this, open up those little stitches a little bit on that cast on row so I can put them up onto my left needle, because these are going to get worked in the next step. So sometimes this is a little fiddly here. They can get kind of small. So you just really want to pull, 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 pull. And you can see they're right about here. It's a little twisted, but I'm gonna stick my needle through there anyway. And do not worry if you drop these. This little pin is just helpful to pick those up, but you can actually just, if you drop that, you can just pick them up off of that cast on row anyway. Nothing will unravel, so don't worry about that. Okay, so last, I'm going to do another yarn over, and this stitch here has the right leg positioned on the back. So I'm just going to reposition this one so that the right leg is on front. Okay, and I just did that by slipping it knitwise. And now I'm going to work that stitch through the back loop, and then the next one through the back loop. And then this is the stitch when we took out that slip knot. That means this stitch gets to sort of freely get bigger, whatever it wants to do. So don't worry about that. It actually just helps a little bit because it's not as fiddly when it's so loose like that. And I'm just going to knit that through the back loop there and then pull my strand of yarn, my tail, and that is what it's going to look like at the end of row 1. So that is the transition. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Did I leave 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12? No, I have 13. Okay, good. Yesterday when I was live for another pattern, and it was a Mercury retrograde day, even though I don't think it's a retrograde yet. Okay, so that is the end of row 1. And now we're going to do row 2. Row 2 is easy. We're just going to knit 3 through the back loop here, and then knit to 3 stitches before the end. And knit 3 through the back loop. Okay, and that's what it looks like so far. It's kind of bunched up. That's totally normal. And let's turn this over. And I am so glad I see a comment that the garter tab is so much easier with the pin and the cast on. Yay, I am so glad. So happy to hear that. Okay, so now we are ready for chart A. So let me just move my papers around here. I just redid my studio because I think I'm going to be doing more lives, and so I'm just kind of still getting used to my studio space here. Okay, so let's come back over here to chart A. Okay, so when I work a chart, I always like to cover up the top part as I'm moving up. I generally will just put a post-it over my chart and just go straight up and uncover the pattern as I go. So I'm just going to go straight up this whole chart, uncovering little bits as I move up the chart. So there are also great other things you can use, chart keepers, all sorts of chart keepers, and there is also Knit Companion, and Knit Companion is for iPhone or iPad, and you can bring the PDF into your Knit Companion and make notes, which is very, very handy. Okay, so let's just do this first row. And I'm just going to use my pencil as kind of a marker here. So I want to show you what it looks like. I'm going to knit 3 stitches through the back loop, and then this middle area here is worked 7 times. Okay, so when we ended up, we had 13 stitches, and we're going to almost double that. So this whole area right here is 7 times. That means I'm going to make a yarn over, and there's only one stitch that's actually used in this row. So I get a lot of questions from people asking about how many stitches you'll need in a first row. So even though this has 14, it looks like there are 14 stitches needed for those 7 repeats. Really, only 7 stitches are needed because that yarn over is just going to come out of thin air. So it's not a stitch that exists. It's just an increase in the row. So that means we have 3 stitches used on the right side and 3 stitches used on the left side. And then you can see there's another yarn over, which is an increase. And then 7 stitches used in the middle. So for a total of 13, even though it looks like there are quite a few more stitches used. So let's just do that one little row. And I like to use markers. Um, it just helps me keep track. So I'll be putting stitch markers in. So I'm just going to do my 3 stitches over here on the right side. And I like to use little tiny pieces of cut up straws um, for no reason other than they're really handy. And when I drop them, doesn't matter. Okay, so now I'm going to start on this repeat. All of these are actual not, they're not actually there. So there's no stitch there at all. So the first thing I'm going to work is this yarn over, and then I'm going to knit one through the back loop. So a yarn over is a front to back. You want the right leg of the stitch in front and the left leg of the stitch in back. And then I'm going to work one stitch through the back loop. And I will now place another marker. Get this picked up. And I'm just going to do this all the way across, just establishing my markers in here. So there are going to be 2 stitches between each marker, and that is going to grow. This does not use any type of triangular shaping or anything like that. I like to kind of grow my patterns organically. So in each one of these repeats, they're going to be growing and getting larger as the shawl progresses. And you can see that in chart B, that is already happening, and in chart A as well. Okay. Oh, that's right. I forgot there's a comment that Knit Companion is available for Android as well, and I forgot that they have it available for Android. Yes, yes. It's the best program. So much fun. So handy to use. You can make notes and keep track of your charts. It's a great program. Okay, so I am almost at the end here. And I'm just going to stick in this last marker, and you can see there's an extra little yarn over after this last marker. And don't forget that yarn over. So one of the most common things to happen if you are new at knitting lace is to forget a yarn over. So I am going to show you how to pick one up if you forget one. It's very easy, and if you use the markers, it's going to be much easier for you to figure out where you have lost one. Okay, so now I'm gonna work this wrong side row here to show you how this goes. It's just going to be the edge here. So That's the knitting 3 through the back loop. Okay, so now what if I had actually forgotten that yarn over that I was telling you not to forget? Because it is pretty common to do, and I can't even tell you how many times I've done that. So I've actually lost count long, long ago. So if you do forget that yarn over and you think, oh no, I totally forgot that yarn over, I don't know what to do. What you're going to do is just pick up the bar in between the stitches and just slip it up onto your left needle. You want the right leg in front and the left leg in back. And then you're just going to work into it as usual. And it will create a nice hole for you. And it will block out. No one will ever know that you forgot your yarn over. So I do keep talking about having the right leg in front and the left leg in back. And there are combination knitters, many combination knitters amongst us. And after a purl row, if you are a combination knitter, you will have your right leg in back and your left leg in front. And that is generally not a problem, but for lace, all of the stitches, all of the description of how to do the stitches and how to reorient um, the stitches in order to make them directional will assume that your right leg is in front and your left leg is in back. So if you are a combination knitter, you just need to kind of keep in mind that that's how the pattern is written. And so when you come to something like a knit two together or a slip slip knit, or an SK2P, the instructions are for you are going to be a little bit different. And if you have not knit lace before, probably the best thing to do would be to reorient your stitch with the right leg in front and the left leg in back. And then you can figure out what you need to do to get there. And after a while, it will become second nature. So lots and lots of combination knitters actually do knit lace. So don't worry, it's a little bit fiddly at first, but it gets easier. Okay, so just checking here to make sure I don't have any questions. Okay, so let's go on to row 3. And I just want to do this one so I can show you why I have these little twisted stitches here. And then I'm going to show you how to pick up a yarn over if you completely miss it on both the front and the back side. And then you realize in your pattern row, oh no, I left out my yarn over a couple rows back. Okay, so we're just going to start over here on the right. And all right, so you can see this yarn over here. And I'm just going to do, I'm going to knit into this and I'm not going to twist it. And I'll show you what it looks like. So the bottom here, you can see the bottom of that stitch is open. And I think it looks sloppy in this particular pattern. So in some patterns, it looks really nice. It gives you a beautiful feathery look to it. But in this particular pattern, I think the bottom needs to be twisted. So instead of having it open like that, we are going to twist that stitch. And you can see now it makes that yarn over much neater and tidier. So that works for this pattern. This little area down here is a little bit more geometric. For some leafy, feathery patterns, I wouldn't suggest twisting like that, but for this one, it works nicely. And then I'm just going to twist all the way across. And we're just building up this little area here. So you can see again that in this second right side row, we are again doubling all the stitches. Okay, so now what if I'd like totally forgotten that yarn over, or my yarn over came out, I dropped a stitch or something. Okay, so your first instinct might be just to pick up this top bar, but you do not want to do that. So if you pick up that top bar and make a yarn over out of it, that's going to be like you are making a yarn over on the wrong side. And what you really want is to have your yarn over on the right side. So you don't want to have made a yarn over and patterned on the wrong side row. So what you want is to make a yarn over out of the second bar down. So this is your yarn over stitch right here. This one is your yarn over. So what you're going to do is reach your needle under that second bar and then bring it up between these two bars. Go up and around and catch that top bar and bring it through. And that is going to be your yarn over plus a stitch worked into it on the back side. I'm just going to put that up onto my needle. And now I can kind of continue along on my way here. Okay, so I don't think there's anything that's really out of the ordinary on this particular chart. You can see here that it grows. It's just going to keep growing all the way up. So it's only using yarn overs as increases to grow, going all the way up. And you can see over here on the left side, the last time that you have something different on the left side is on row 5. So after that, you don't have to worry as much about catching anything over there on the left side. So the last time, and then the rest of it all the way up is just going to be this border here. Okay, so let's go over to chart B here. There's a couple of different things here. One of them being this yarn over on either side. So without really doing anything else, I'm just going to show you on this little tiny swatch here, this little start of chart A. So I'm no longer doing chart A. Now I'm just going to show you how to do a double yarn over and what that's going to look like on chart B. So on chart B, to do a double yarn over, you're going to have, if you're using markers, you are going to have a yarn over before the marker. Then you're going to slip your marker, and then you're going to have another yarn over after that marker. So I'm just going to quick knit a little bit more. So again, that is yarn over, slip the marker, and another yarn over, and just continue on with that row. So that is row 1 of chart B. And I'm just going to scoot here to the end so I can show you what it looks like to work into a double yarn over. And again, this is not adhering to a chart. So when you see me working on this, I'm just using this as a swatch. And I am not actually working a chart. We're going to go over a few of the stitches as well. Okay. So on the back side, as you're going back, you're going to be purling, and you are going to come to your double yarn over. The double yarn over is going to be broken up here with your marker. So you're going to purl 1 and slip your marker if you're using markers, and then you're going to knit 1. So a double yarn over is actually just a big hole. So if anything pops off your needle, don't worry about it. It's just a big hole. So I'll show you what happens if things should kind of pop off your needle. Okay, so sometimes we put things down and it just pops off. So here is what a double yarn over looks like. It's just that, it's just a hole. And that is correct. So if yours comes off the needle, it's just going to look like that hole. And to put it back, you're just going to wrap it on your needle, on your left needle, and then you can take your marker if you're using them, put it right up on your left needle. You don't actually have to put this on your needle again, but you can. So there it is back on your needle. And you're just going to purl one and knit one. Okay, so now I'm just going to get to the end here so I can show you some of the stitches in chart B. So again, unfortunately, even though 20 bazillion people checked over this entire thing many times, um, I totally miss putting SK2P into the chart keys. So again, that was up at the beginning, the SK2P was, but I will show you again what it looks like. Okay. Alrighty. So this is an SSK, and we're just going to go over these. Let me get over here. I'm just going to take my markers out as we're going so I don't confuse the issue. So here is an SSK. Slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit. And doing that reorients your stitches so that the right leg is in back and the left leg is in front. So again, if you are a combination knitter, your stitches will already be this way. So if you ever see in a stitch slip as if to knit, then you know that your stitches are already set up that way because it's slipping to knit that reorients the stitch. Now we're just going to put those back on the left needle, and I always keep my right needle just through those two stitches, and now they're going to get knit together. And that is an SSK. It is a left leaning decrease. Okay, so let's get further. I'm going to take another stitch marker out here. All right, so knit two together. You're going to do a right leaning decrease. So if you are a combination knitter, you're going to have to reorient your stitches. You want the right leg in front and the left leg in back. So you're going to put your needle through the second stitch first and then through the first stitch and knit those two together. And that is a right leaning decrease. Okay, so we're just going to do a yarn over there and knit one through the back loop. Okay, so this little one here is a triple SK, and I notated it as a 3SK because I think it's pretty easy to look at it in the instructions and think that it's a typo if I said SSSK. So I made it a 3SK. So it's a little bit different from an SK2P because it leans more strongly to the left. An SK2P is much more of a centered stitch. So if you're doing an SSSK, you are going to slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit. So there are 3 stitches reoriented, and then they're going to go back onto your left needle. And I just always leave my right needle in there so I can work those together easily. And there we have, it's a left leaning double decrease. Okay, it's the opposite of knit three together. And here is knit three together. I'm going to stick my needle into the third stitch from the end of my left needle and through all three of these stitches and work a knit stitch through all of those. Okay, and let's do our KFB right here. So you can see those two, there's a little V with a 2 on top of it. That one is a KFB. So you're going to knit into the front of a stitch, not going to take it off of your needle, and then immediately you're going to knit into the back of the stitch and take that stitch off your needle. That is a KFB. It's an increase of 1 stitch. Okay, and now we're to the SK2P. There's the SK2P, and I am going to slip 1 stitch as if to knit. So, and that reoriented my stitch. So again, I want my left leg in front and my right leg in back. Now I'm going to knit 2 stitches together and slip that. I'm going to pass the slip stitch over. So that is a double decrease, and you can see that it's really more centered than the SSSK. So that is used right up at the top of this little motif here. Okay, so let's, I think I have pretty much everything here, and I don't see any other questions. So, alrighty. Just gonna switch on over here. Okay. So, thank you everybody for joining me. I love doing these. So, I get really nervous, but then I really love doing them when I'm doing them. So that's good. At any rate, please don't forget that there is a verb for keeping warm Zoom get together tomorrow on Saturday, the 23rd of April. So those are from 2 to 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and there are going to be 5 of them all together. So 5 YouTube lives all together, 5 verb get-togethers all together, and I sent the information out. It's on your clue, and you'll be able to look up at the top. You don't have to register for it. All you have to do is show up at the get-together time and hang out. I am not going to be teaching there, but there will be lots of people there. So this is basically just to hang out. It's like a knit along. We're just going to be hanging out and having fun. So hopefully you will be able to make it. And I'm just going to check again to make sure that I didn't I didn't miss anybody. Okay, there is a question about colors. So I started with my lighter color and then the darker color. So this clue is all in C1, which is my lighter color. And then my darker color, so mine is in the one that I specified within the pattern, but I know that there were other colors. So like totally up to you which color you want to start with. Every year someone does the opposite of the colors and it turns out incredible. So whichever way you want to do it, start with a color. The appearance will be that whichever color you start with is going to look like there's more of that color in the shawl because there's just a larger kind of area of color. And then you'll have the little border around it. So yeah, I'm giving away a little secrets, but and then I have a question if the verb get-togethers will be recorded, and they will not. So those are just to hang out. They're just like a knitting group, hang out, talk about. We usually talk about stuff like all sorts of things. Last year we talked about art and music and just all sorts of knitting projects. So we don't record them. They're just to hang out, and I think it would be a little invasive. I don't want to invade anybody's privacy. So we just keep them um, just no recording. And then let's see, any other questions? Okay, awesome. So I think I have everything, and I don't see any other questions, which is good. So excellent. I hope everybody is having a great time. And if you have any questions or anything, I will be around. If you want me to go over anything in the next YouTube live, like if there's anything extra that you want to talk about, I'm happy to. Sometimes I actually do like an interim little video or something like that. So if you would like for that to happen, just email me or hit me up on Ravelry, and we'll get you all fixed up. And before I go, I want to thank the incredible, wonderful moderators in my Ravelry group who are just the absolute best, and the mystery would not be the same without them. So every year, like they're just the very best. So I hope that you can join us over there. And if you can't, no worries. That's mostly why we do the verb get-togethers, because we know that there are people who are not on Ravelry right now. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye bye.